Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Today, more than ever, an increasing number of parents participate in the workforce and are juggling the demands of managing a career and family. Benestar have partnered with Win-Win Parenting to create the Win-Win Parenting program. Today's facilitator is Dr Rosina McAlpine, who is the CEO of Win-Win Parenting. She is also an author, parent, multi-award winning educator and researcher on parenting. Win-Win Parenting partners with forward-thinking organisations to help working parents navigate the work-family interface successfully. Our innovative evidence-based parenting programs support parents working across a variety of industries, both locally and internationally. I'm going to now hand over to Rosina, who is your facilitator for today.
Well, hello everyone, it's fantastic to have you all here. I'm going to start straight away so that we don't waste any more time. Okay, so what's on the agenda for today? Well, first of all, I thought it would be comforting to you to hear some of the most common issues that are facing parents today. Oftentimes as a parent, we feel so alone. There's so many things going on, but when we talk to other parents and when we facilitate the Win-Win Parenting programs, we see that everyone's got the same challenges. So we'll start there. The second thing is we're going to be able to overview the physiological changes in children's brains, because if we're going to be able to help our families thrive from toddler right through to teen, understanding brain development is the key to that. Now, I promise there won't be too many hard words and I'll explain everything, so it won't be challenging for you. The other thing that's important is when we understand the brain, we understand why growing up brings challenging behaviours and emotional outbursts. So even if there's nothing you can, do about it, that it's going to happen, at least you'll understand why it happens. Now, we're also going to talk about how your parenting approach influences your child, and we'll talk about the different approaches, the positive and negative outcomes of those. And of course, most importantly, we're going to talk about strategies for thriving as a family, toddler right through to teen. Now, can everybody see their question box? If you've logged in via a computer, you should be able to type questions in. So if you want to have a little practice now and say, hi Rosina, great, everyone's doing there. Yeah, that's fantastic. So hi Rosina, fantastic to have you here. Great, it's working, I can see everyone. So if you've got questions, please feel free to type them throughout. The team and I are here to make sure we see all your questions and hopefully answer them as much as we can. Now, I always start with a disclaimer. You're going to learn that, and that is that I understand that you're your best expert for your family. You know your children, you know your family values, you know what's going on in your home. So therefore, the purpose of this webinar is not to give you any more advice. Parents don't need any more advice. What they need is good, sound information. Fantastic, and that's what we're going to do. So where to begin? Let me get to know you a little better. Could you please type in the question box, 0 to 5 years, whether your children are in the 0 to 5 year range, in the 6 to 11 years, or the 12 plus years, just so we've got a feel. Okay, so they're all coming in. We've got lots of youngies. We've got lots of 0 to 5s, quite a few 6 to 11s, and of course, great, we've got lots of parents with teenagers as well. That's fantastic. We've got a pretty even spread, I must say, so don't worry, we're going to be covering. Oh, we've got twins, we've got one in each bracket, we've got a whole lot of things going on. Fantastic. Don't worry, we're covering toddler right through to teenage. So what are some of the common issues? Now, if you feel these are your common issues, please feel free to type in there. It might be quite cathartic just to get it out there. So feel free to type. So common issues that face parents are tantrums. Whether you've got a toddler tantruming because a toy's being taken away or they can't have a biscuit for breakfast, or you've got a teenager who's walked in the house from school and slammed the door and you absolutely don't know what's going on. Oh, people are saying tantrums, not listening, absolutely. Defiant behaviour, exactly. See, now I wish you could see the scrolling happening here. Then you would know that you're not alone. Back chat, attitude, not listening, eating challenges, yes, absolutely. And sibling rivalry for those of you who have got more than one child. Fantastic. Let's keep going. This is feeling really good, right? Okay, now this is probably a screen time obsession. Yeah, hormones, yes, eating challenges. Now, look, if I was to have probably to say what's the most common question I get asked about, and that is screen time. Most people are really struggling with the fights over screen time. Yes, I've got eye-rolling teenager behaviours. Yes, mobile phones, social media, absolutely, yeah. And even gaming addiction, that's one of the big things I've been trying to support parents with, avoiding gaming addiction and overcoming gaming addiction. All right, we're getting there. Who's having difficulty communicating with children, whether you've got a toddler who you just can't understand or can't understand you, or you've got a teenager who's like, yeah, whatever, whatevs, don't care, or you've got issues of a lack of cooperation, or, what about those other issues like physical bullying or online bullying? There is just so much going on, yet teenager doesn't talk, one word answers, lack of respect, get that, don't care. Oh, so hearing you, and all parents I'm sure are just going, yeah, me too. Not pulling their weight around the house, you're absolutely right. And of course, peer pressure. How important is it that everything is exactly as everybody else, their friends do? The other thing that we often talk about is the challenges to mental well-being at the moment. We've got 1 in 4 to 1 in 5 kids who are suffering mental health issues now, and they can be very young right through to teenagers. Stress, anxiety, depression, and even our suicide rates are going up. So, I promise this is my last slide. And then there's that whole risky behaviour when you've got, teenagers, that dangerous driving, extreme sports. They want to experience sex and, even crime. Let's go steal something from the local shop, or, and going online and experiencing pornography. Or what if it's as simple as just getting a teenager to shower? I mean, maybe some of you have to have a hazmat suit to go into your bedroom, your teen's bedroom. This is so disgusting. There could be food there that's been sitting there and something growing. So yeah, yes, teen bedroom. But then there's even more serious things like tobacco, alcohol, and drug use. So basically what I'm trying to say is, if you're struggling a bit, well, of course you're struggling a bit. You're trying to manage work and family and all these terrible things that are going on in the world, and be a good parent and still survive all this. So how are parents supposed to navigate these issues successfully and thrive as a family? The good news is, I'm going to tell you lots and lots of tips. Now, instead of having that phrase, surviving, let's talk about thriving. What does it actually mean to thrive as a family? So first of all, the first thing is to understand that maturity takes time, and that really sometimes we're setting very unrealistic expectations. When we run these webinars and when we run the workshops, we get lots of questions and comments from parents who generally feel like their kids are their kids are failing, they're not doing what they need, like so for example, my 3-year-old can't get dressed, my 5-year-old can't sit at the dinner table and finish their meal, my 12-year-old can't go home from school and organise themselves and do their homework, my teenager has no idea about how to prepare a healthy meal. And the question is, are we setting realistic expectations? And if we set these expectations that they can't actually meet, are we causing ourselves, more stress than is necessary? So number one, understanding maturity takes time, setting realistic expectations. Second thing is, well, we do want them to eventually be able to sit at the table and eat, and we do want them to get themselves dressed, and we do want them to have good hygiene and be able to take care of themselves. So how do we support that child development? How do we be a positive role model? How do we have a supportive approach to parenting? And we're going to talk about the win-win approach. That sounds good, right? Who doesn't want win-win? Win for kids, win for parents. And we also say win for workplaces, because when you're doing well at home, you're doing much better at work. And finally, that whole concept of teaching your kids life skills all the way through, so that when they leave home, you know that they can look after themselves. So let's start with the brain. understanding the brain, and I promise I'll keep it simple, but it is an important aspect. So our brain can actually change throughout our whole life. We know that now. We know that we can learn to the day we take our last breath. And you've often heard of the term perhaps neuroplasticity, and that's just a fancy schmancy word for our brains can learn throughout our whole lives and can change throughout our whole lives. And of course, it's very important to keep that brain learning and changing so that you have mental health well-being throughout your whole life. But there are two periods of major change. We are talking, like if you were talking about, renovating your home or remodeling your home, like renovating would be stick a coat of paint on, maybe change the carpet. Remodeling would be bang down a few walls, add, change the roof lights, add an extra room. So the remodeling happens in those early years and then again in adolescence. So let's explore that so that you understand and can have realistic expectations about their development. Now, pretty much when your child comes into the world, the baby, they don't really have much at all. They don't speak, they don't walk, they don't talk. Well, pretty nice, isn't it, for a little period there, but it's a bit quiet. You just get to enjoy goo goo gaga, lots of smiles. However, we also want to support that early brain development. What does it actually mean? How do we do that? And how can we work out what expectations we can have? First, the most important thing is just to have an enriched environment. And so when you're checking out your home and the preschool or the daycare centre, make sure you feel like you can see a safe, calm, loving environment. Why is that important? Why is safe, calm and loving important? Because when a child is in fight or flight, when they're scared, when they're fearful, they are not learning, they are not in growth and repair. So as much as possible, we want our kids to be as calm as possible. Happy is good, but not scared and anxious. They need lots and lots of exercise and movement. That is so important for brain development. So, you know that toddlers need about 3 hours of running around. So are you finding that? So if you've got a cranky toddler, find out whether they've had 3 hours of running around for the day. What does a nutritious diet look like? Well, try and keep it as simple as possible. When you're a working parent, let's face it, it's hard to be able to do everything. But all you're looking for is fresh is best. Can you cut up an apple, some vegetables? Can you have, unprocessed foods where possible? Whole grains, rice, and if you eat meat in your family, then just unprocessed chicken and beef and fish and all those things, so that it's as unprocessed and as whole as possible. And that really helps brain and body development. Are there lots of social interactions with you, adults, their parent, and also other children? Stimulate all the senses, whether it's touch or taste or sight. And that means you can sing, play, be outside, be inside, and that physical affection, lots of cuddles, because believe me, sometimes when the teen years come, you won't be getting those cuddles anymore, so you might as well enjoy them while they're there. But basically for the early years, the more opportunity you give for positive experiences, the more brain development that you have. Now, let's move away from the toddlers and the youngies. Let's move into the 6+, up to teen years. Keep it simple. How do you support brain development? That safety is really important. Keep them safe. And someone's saying, oh, look, is it possible for you to send us this presentation? It's really good. Don't worry, after this session, there's going to be a replay, so you can watch it more than once, and you can even share it with your parenting partner at home. And on top of that, there's going to be a downloadable handout. So I'm really glad you're enjoying it, but don't worry, there'll be a replay for a certain amount of time. So it'll only be there for probably 2 weeks. So make sure you watch it in that 2 weeks again. Keep it simple. Keep it simple is keep them safe so they feel safe to learn and grow. Spend quality time, and I'm not talking a lot of time, I'm just saying quality time, not quantity time. Spend a little bit of good quality time with your child, and so someone's written here, keep your child safe. Yes, good point, but also need to expose them to risks. Yes, but keep them safe in the home environment, so home is a safe space. However, in that safe space, you can teach them about all the risks, absolutely. But when they're in a place where they don't feel safe, they feel anxious, they're not learning. So really good point. Thank you for mentioning that. provide rich and varied learning opportunities as much as you can, and give those, teach those life skills. What skills are missing? Okay, now we're up to the teenagers. Uh-oh, here we go. Are you ready? For those of you who have got little children, if you want to mute right now or put your fingers in your ear and go la, 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 because you don't want to hear all about the risks or the challenges that you're going to get in teen years, then that's where so someone's just asked, how can I access the chat window? The chat window is not available to you, it's to me, so that I can see what you're saying. And what that means is you can type questions. You can type questions if you want me to see them, but you're not seeing the chat because everyone wants to keep their questions private. So I want to be able to keep people's, yeah, great. All right, so teenagers, let's go. Let's see what the teenagers' brain is doing. Remember how I said that there's two really important times, 0 to 6, or some people say 0 to 7, and then again in teen years or in those adolescent years. And depending on each child's a little bit different. Adolescence starts a little earlier, a little later, but you can think around 12 onwards is a reasonable time to start thinking. So guess what's happening? Can you see these teenagers jumping from a cliff face into rocks? Yes, yes, we can all cringe and think, what are you doing? But that is exactly what teenagers are built to do at that stage. They have, if you look at their brain and you understand brain research, they have a heightened desire to experience pleasure, for risk-taking and sensation-seeking, and for peer approval. And yes, it's very, very scary. Now, why is that the case? Now, I want you to think about, just be with me for a moment. Imagine biting into a piece of chocolate if you love chocolate. If you don't like chocolate, pick something that you absolutely love, a sip of coffee or something, or a cup of tea or whatever it is. Now, imagine that you're enjoying that, and you know what goes through your body? Your brain feels good, your body feels good. Imagine supercharging that 10 times. That is what your kids are experiencing as teenagers. That kiss is so much more sensual, that flavor is so much more enticing, that risk is so much more inviting, right? And then over time it dials down, thank goodness, otherwise we'd be doing this for the rest of our life. But at the same time this is happening, they've got an underdeveloped ability to consider the consequences of that, to curb their impulses and to manage their emotions. So when someone said, yes, it's scary, you're right. It's really scary because there's this big mismatch. They're very socially and emotionally immature, but they've got this, heightened desire. So what can we do? Let's look at that. So to help you understand a little bit about what's called the prefrontal cortex, all I want you to do is to imagine that you've just put your hand on your forehead. If you put your hand on your forehead, your prefrontal cortex is pretty much behind that. It's the front part of your brain. It's the part that develops last. Brains develop from the back forward. And so our children are not able to do many of the things that we think they are able to do. So let's look at our prefrontal cortex. It's the thing that helps with the planning, the setting goals and the decision making. So if you're saying that your 5-year-old, your 9-year-old are not able to get dressed, do their homework and all those things, well, sure, because their prefrontal cortex is really in the very, very immature stage. Planning, setting goals, staying on task, being able to self-regulate, very, very small. Foresight, prediction of outcomes and expectations based on outcomes. Yeah, we kind of know as adults, well, if we do this, then more than likely this will happen. Even our teenagers aren't able to do that, which is why they have all these risky behaviours. And that prefrontal cortex is important for moderating social behaviour. In other words, the ability to suppress urges. Now, picture yourself in a meeting where it's so boring and really you want to pull your hair out, you want to put a pen in your eye, you want to scream, this is the most boring meeting in the whole wide world. But no, you sit there breathing deeply, taking a glass of water, smiling, because you're able to suppress those urges, right? But teenagers, not so much. Young children, not so much. And so that's why it leads to those socially unacceptable outcomes. So I hope this little tour of the brain has helped you maybe dial back your expectations of your toddlers right through to your teenagers, because the prefrontal cortex, which does all these important things that helps us in life, actually reaches maturity for girls a little bit earlier, from the early to the mid-20s, and for boys from the mid to the late 20s. Yes, you heard me correctly. So all through those teen years, you can still expect all of this. People are writing, no way. Up till now, I thought a 14-year-old could do it. Now I need to rethink it. Exactly right. So I hope that little tour of the brain, it was just a tiny tour, will help you dial back your expectations. Someone said, glad I have girls. Yep, they're usually a little bit sooner than the boys. Okay, so how do we now, knowing all of that, thrive as a family? The first thing is to build relationships. Fact of the matter is, someone said I need a VIP membership to Dan Murphy's. Yes, a glass of wine sometimes does really help, or something a little stronger. Okay, so building relationships is what's going to really help you through this period, because I want you to think for a moment. What do you want for your family? You want a loving family life. You want nurturing bonds. You want lifelong bonds. You want to be able to say, wow, look back these amazing memories, right? Now, think about someone you love in your life. Think about what you wouldn't do for them. And it's the same. It's the absolute same with your children. If you can nurture that really loving relationship with them, what do you think they're not going to do for you later on in life? Nurturing that loving, lifelong bond. Okay, so let's go. What does it look like? First thing we need to do is really think about our approach to parenting. And when we're parenting, we often don't see ourselves. And that's why I'm going to give you these two pictures. You've got a picture on the left with a dad, let's say these two girls, we've got a young girl and a teen girl. Let's say they've both made a really bad choice, really bad, like bad, right? So the little girl might have run on the road, and the teenage girl might have posted something on Instagram or on social media, and unfortunately it's kind of now out there and she can't get it down. And so here we've got two completely different approaches. What do you see and how do you feel? One's on the right's the discipline and punishment approach. What's the matter with you? I told you never to run on the road. You could have died. That sort of stuff. And then the second one is a more loving approach. Look, you know what? We all make mistakes. I've made mistakes. We can fix this. We can work. Yeah, I like the father on the left listening too. That'd be the dad that I want as well. But we're not always that. So the question I'm going to ask you is to consider, what do you think your children would say about your parenting approach? This is not what you think your parenting approach is, but if you sat down and actually asked your child what they think your parenting approach is, you might be really surprised. Now, the other day, I have to tell you, my son was having a long conversation with me about Fortnite. Now, my son's only 11 going on 12, and so Fortnite is absolutely inappropriate for his age. So we had a conversation around that, and we were talking about that. And he said to me, and we were talking about my parenting approach on this, and he said, look, Mum, I know that you have to be strict on this. I know that it's for my own good, but I just want you to know that I'm not happy and that my friends are allowed to play and it doesn't seem fair. And even though I know that I shouldn't have it, and if you were my kid, I wouldn't let you have it, but I still want you to know that it feels unfair and that. And so I loved that he was able to say to me, he felt it was unfair. He knew that I was strict and we certainly had boundaries, but that he could say to me, someone's written, we should ban it before it starts because Fortnite is crack for kids, and you're absolutely not wrong. And someone else is saying, this sounds familiar, and my 6-year-old does that to me too. And I hear you about my Fortnite. Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of didn't want to go off on a tangent, but I really do want to ask you the question, do your children feel like they could come and talk to you and say that and go, it feels unfair? I really do want that. Or would they be fearful for reprimand? Now, do you know, Believe it or not, there are over 70 years of research on parenting. So they tracked kids that were kids 70 years ago and then who became parents themselves and grandparents. And they could ask them questions like, well, how were you parented and what impact has that had on your life? And they can follow trends. So there's some really old studies in the UK. There's some really good research coming out of Dunedin studies in New Zealand. There's like 40 plus years now. So when you look at all of that research, guess what? There is a trend. We know that the parenting approach that children experience is related to how they fare in life long term. And we know that warm parenting with clear expectations, just like my kids said, I know you love me and I know you care about me and I know you're strict and I know I'm not supposed to have Fortnite, but I'm still not happy, leads to better outcomes. It helps children's social and behavioural development and it supports them to learn self-control. There are just so many better outcomes when you've got warm, affectionate parenting. And someone says, yeah, my daughter understands that, but watching her friends do the opposite, it confuses her a lot. I agree with you. And that's where you have conversations and say, we can't say what other families are going to do because that's not our domain. I can only take care of you. You're in my domain. You're in my care. I can't influence other people, but I can be a responsible parent and I can take care of you in the best way that I know how. Thanks for all this engagement. It's amazing. I'm so glad to see that you're getting a lot out of this. Okay, parenting approach, strictness. Now, strictness or harshness, this is again this longitudinal research. This is research that's been going on for years and years and years. Strictness or harshness without warmth is related to many much poorer outcomes for kids. So harsh parenting has a negative impact on our child's development. It affects their behaviour. First of all, if you're really harsh, they want to get back at you. They don't feel like they're loved. They feel like they're getting into trouble and that you don't understand them and that you're mean. So, of course, why would they want to be kind and good to you when they feel like they're being treated meanly? It affects their psychology. If a child feels like they can do nothing right, you never do this, you never do that, you're not good at school, you're not good at sport, you don't listen to me, you're just so negative, everything's negative, then of course it can have an impact on their self-esteem, their psychological well-being. When we're yelling at our kids and not communicating in a socially effective way, we're affecting how their social interactions will be. And if we stress them and we stress ourselves, guess what? It has negative impact on our physical outcomes. So we know that strict or harsh parenting has worse outcomes for kids, and warm and affectionate parenting has better outcomes for kids and for parents, of course. Who wants to be in a house where we're always, at each other? I'd much rather be in a house where we're learning together. All right, what's your relationship with your child? What are you role modeling? Now, the important thing here is I've put down some, of course, yes, people are saying it can be frustrating and you can, like it escalates, like you might be very calm and then you say it again and again and again and again and you've said it 10 times. I get it. It's frustrating. Yes. But I'm going to give you an approach that will really help you to manage that frustration. Okay. So if we want to role model good behaviour to our children, and if we don't want a lifelong, from toddler through to teen, have that combat and that conflict, what can we do? How can we have a loving, caring relationship where we're not expected to be perfect parents? Please don't think I'm suggesting that. We're all allowed to get upset. We're all allowed to get angry. But the question is that all the time or is that sometimes? Is this what our children are experiencing all the time? And the question here is, should we be more strict or harsh with kids under 12 and more relaxed when they're in the teen years? And the answer is we're going to be talking about win-win parenting that goes from toddler to teenager in just a moment, so stay tuned. Now, this statement here cannot be more true. The most protective factor for your child is your relationship with them. What does that mean? When we look at longitudinal research, warm and caring environments result with children who have better academic achievements, better social relationships, better self-esteem, better mental health and well-being. All sorts of outcomes are improved. And of course, the opposite is true when it's harsh parenting. So what can loving, caring parenting look like? And the answer is win-win parenting, okay? So I've been so excited to get to this part. I love the win-win approach because it's good for kids and good for parents. And it's simple because I get it, you're busy. Now, before we start on the specifics of the win-win parenting approach, I want to tell you what I mean by an approach. Let's go away from parenting for a moment and go towards cooking, okay? We're just going to use an analogy before I move over here. First things first. Let's say you've never done any cooking before and you really want to do some cooking and you want to learn how to cook. Now, if I just gave you recipes, if I said, okay, this is how you make a salad, this is how you make soup, this is how you make, a roast, then sure, you're going to have 3 or 4 meals. Sure, that's fine. But you don't really know how to cook. So what's going to happen when you open the fridge and you don't have those specific ingredients for the salad or the specific ingredients for the soup or the specific ingredients for the roast? Instead, what if you went to a cooking school that said, hey, this is what a salad looks like. Salads tend to have this kinds of things in it. This is the type of way you prepare them. This is what they generally look like. Soups can be served hot and cold, mainly hot. You can have chunky vegetables or you could, mush it all up into a nice puree and have a smooth soup. And if you knew all of these different approaches, then when you open the fridge, you've got some idea of what you can do with your ingredients. And that's what See a New Way Parent is. It's an approach. It's an approach that you can use from toddler right through to teenager. It's the recipe for taking care of any of your challenges. And as you get better and better and better, you increase your repertoire of being able to deal with all these challenges. So what does it look like? Whether you've got a toddler or a teenager, when something goes wrong, would you agree that obviously if they're safe and nothing's going to happen to them, if you stop and take a breath rather than reacting, yelling, raising voices, rushing in, you're going to have a better outcome. So the first part is the stop. Now, what you can do with this is you'll practice this stop over time. That might be the only thing that you do for weeks. You go, you know what? I'm just going to stop. I'm just going to be a little calmer. I'm going to put stop signs everywhere all around my house. I'm going to talk to the kids that we're all just going to bring it down. There's not going to be yelling in our house for a week. We're going to bring it down. So the stop. The stop is where you know that from that stop, you're in a really good position to empathize with your kids, to see it from their point of view. Now that you've got this information about the brain, don't you see things just a little bit differently? Aren't you saying, oh, maybe my expectations were a little bit, too much. Oh, maybe I'm not seeing it from their point of view. Oh, maybe I'm not remembering how it was when I was a little kid and I wanted a biscuit for breakfast, or when I was a teenager and I wanted to go to a party where everybody else was going, or go out after midnight. Maybe I don't remember, right? What it was like. So that stop, that empathize, understand where they're at, understand what's going on. And the most beautiful part of this is the educate part. It means that as a parent, you don't have to be a disciplinarian and a punishment giver. You can be the one that can teach them how to be in the world. So let's say your child's being disrespectful. Instead of saying, you're so disrespectful, oh my goodness, I can't believe that you go straight to your room. I don't want to hear this anymore. Discipline and punishment, you're not going out for a week. You can go, you know what? The way you're speaking to me right now isn't very respectful. And maybe in the past, I haven't been respectful to you. Maybe sometimes I've yelled at you and I haven't listened to you. Maybe I haven't had the best communication. But right now, I want to teach you how to talk to me with respect, how to be empathic, how to appreciate that I just cooked this beautiful meal for you. And you're going, I don't want to eat it. That's disgusting. I put it in the bin. No one should eat that stuff. What do you think this is? Instead of talking like that, saying, oh, okay, thanks, Mum. Thanks, Dad, for preparing this beautiful meal. It's not exactly what I would have liked. Perhaps this would have been better. And then educate them. Sure, no problem. You can help me with the next meal. Why don't we do it together? Education. So basically, the win-win approach is all about saying, look, I'm not going to be a disciplinarian and a punishment giver. I'm going to understand that learning takes time. I'm going to understand that if I role model the way to be in the world, if I show you effective parenting, effective communication, you're going to trust me more, you're going to love me more, and you're going to be able to learn from me more. So that's what it's about. I hope that's been a good little overview. I know it's very quick, but we're going to be doing more. So I hope that's been a great start. But you can use that whether you've got a toddler or a teenager. Now, if you've got an approach, imagine looking back, oh, I'm glad someone said it's a nice simple model with acronyms. Yes, see a new way to parent. If you remember nothing else, remember to stop. Once you've stopped, you'll be more empathic. And once you're more empathic, hey, educate them. Show them how to be in the world. All right, now imagine, I want you to imagine for a moment, imagine you grew up in a household where there was no discipline and punishment, where your parents said, you know what, you're a kid, you're growing, you're learning, and I get it, you're going to make mistakes, and I get it that I'm here to teach you. And you had that stop, empathise, educate. Someone said, Gold, can we have a weekly webinar, please? That's kind of the aim. Awesome. So that's what it's about, getting this information so that you can do better every day. And I love sharing this. Thank you so much for your beautiful feedback here. So we want to create those beautiful memories. We want to look back. We want to go that we know that during our teen years, we remember, and growing up, we remember the books, the first kiss, the challenges, you know, what do you want to remember about your kids growing up? Now, remember I said to you, you don't have to spend a lot of time. We spend little bits of time, but positive time. So imagine if you, just imagine, let's just go imagination. If we spent 5 to 10 minutes every day or two with our kids, where we just listened to them, we just cuddled them, we just talked to them, we just had a positive experience, we played a game of cards, we walked around the block together, we cried together, we laughed together, whatever it was, then you could say every single day of my child's life, or every second day of my child's life, we had a beautiful 5 minutes, a beautiful 10 minutes, and that is memories for life. Get me all teary now. Okay, so how can you communicate better? How can you communicate better with your teens? I know sometimes it seems like teens just don't want to hear. It's like this young girl, she's troubled, she's got her ears blocked, she's like, I don't want to hear anything. So we can rely on communication theory. Now, communication theory has been around for a long time, right since the 50s. And I apply these theories, this research and theories, to really help you with practical solutions to your everyday problems. So communication theory states, if we negate or ignore a perspective of a member of the family, that communicates to them they're not important. It actually makes them feel helpless. So imagine if you're in a workplace or in a family where nobody listened to your points. Imagine if nobody allowed you to have input. Imagine if you were just like invisible. That would create helplessness, wouldn't it? And what do you think that would do? It would create counterproductive behaviour. So it leads to those broken relationships. So when we think about communication theory, one of the things we've got to think about is, are we including all members of our family, right from toddler right through to teen years? Now, for example, toddlers, you might say, are we giving them choice in their clothes? So on a summer's day, you might say, hey, this whole section of the wardrobe, no problems, you can pick from there. On a cold, rainy winter's day, this whole section of the wardrobe, pick from there. So you're giving choice within boundaries. With your teenager, sure, really happy for you to go to movies, but it has to be the 5 o'clock session. Of any movie at 5 o'clock that is not R-rated, that is, you know, rated appropriately. Here's your choice. Knock yourself out. Pick it. It's no problem. So giving those choices and including makes all that difference. So I'm just going to ask you for a moment to stop and reflect. How are you going? Like, I've had so many comments here. Someone says, should we talk or advertise to our kids that this is our new and improved approach? So when you reflect on this and you say, look, how am I going? Are my children thriving? Is our family flourishing? Would I like a new approach? That's Perfect. And you can even put stickers up around the house to have more stops and more empathy for each other. And you can have a theme for the week. So one of our themes for the week is being more proactive at our house, because our child will do what he's told. Now he's got his list of things to tick off, but I want him to be more than just ticking off lists. So he might say, Mum, I was very proactive today. I picked up a piece of paper off the floor and put it into the bin without being asked. Woohoo! Right? So, you know, the question is, where are you at? Do you need some help? Do you need some, you know, support? And that makes sense. We all do, because the situation is not easy that we're in now. So, you know, I need to get my temper under control. Absolutely. And my 3-year-old screams. Oh, isn't it hard when around you there's screaming or there's upset? Yes, I get upset when they fight. You know, you want them to love each other. So that's where empathy comes in, where you can come into empathy and say, look, you know what, my kid can't regulate their emotions, but hey, I'm an adult. I'm the adult. What am I going to do to regulate mine? How, someone said, is it normal for a teenager to say they hate you? I'll bet you if I say that, 100 parents of teenagers are going to go, yes, yes, I've been told I'm the worst parent in the world. Oh, someone wrote, hell yes, oh yeah, oh yeah. See, I told you, you're not alone. You're absolutely not alone. So, empathy. Someone said, oh, my 9-year-old already said that. And my 5-year-old said, I'm not your best friend anymore. Oh, heartbreaking, I get it. So if you can start to get empathy and say, look, my child, do they feel like they're important? Do they feel like they're listened to? Are they included in family conversations? Are they able to talk about anything without feeling judged? And I've just got a really positive comment here. Teens hate you today, but then they love you tomorrow. So there's something that's so beautiful. Your teenager said this morning, they said the only one he loved was the dog. Oh, these are so beautiful. But the point we're trying to make here is that it really is about listening and helping teenagers feel like they're part of the family. Now, please keep the questions coming. Don't worry, I'm here to answer them. So, have you nurtured that connection with your child? Expressing love verbally and physically often. Now, some kids won't let you touch them. Fine. They're not all the same. But what about writing a note, finding a beautiful card, doing something that they really love together? Anything that says, I love you and I'm thinking about you. Make time, 5 minutes, to ask how they're going. What's interesting to them? Yes, I know, maybe you're going to have to watch a video game or two or a webinar, and you should listen to the music I'm listening to at my house. Yikes! But it's what he loves. And so we share that, and then he has to listen to some of my music. Hey, get this. I'm actually, oh, someone says Frozen. I know, over and over and over again. I got it. I can sing all the theme songs too. Yeah, but now I'm actually getting him to listen to Queen. Go figure. So he's opening up his tastes as well. And the most important thing really is to role model calm as much as you can. Now, someone said, I'm a stepmom of 3 teenagers who don't show emotion. Yeah, absolutely. Families come in different shapes and sizes, and every family is different, and that's not an easy thing to negotiate. So I'd start really, really, really small. Really small. So find the child that's most responsive, start there, and just find out something that they might all like to do together, because there could be one that's more open than the others, and you can just simply say, hey, look, I'd love to be closer to you. I'd love to do some stuff together, even if it's, you know, go for a bike ride or watch a movie together, or where you don't even have to talk, but you're together. Something, so try that. So just try something really, really small, yeah? Now, the most important thing is that, you know how I said, if you want your teens to respond to you, if the best thing to do is to make it all about safety. If your teens feel like you love them, you want to keep them safe, and you're trying to do the best you can in the world, that you're not out to get them, that you're not out to ruin their lives, that you're not an old fuddy-duddy that just doesn't understand what it's like to be a teenager anymore. If you want that, if you want that relationship like this young girl and her mum have, teens are more likely to understand if they understand the reason. And it's not and they'll best understand the reason, not if you're saying, don't you know I'm trying to keep you safe? Don't you know that you might die out there? Don't you know that drugs will kill you, that your brain will explode and you'll never be the same, that if you have sex and have a baby, your whole life will change? You know, that's a different thing to saying, hey, let's have a chat. Let's have a chat about why we've got limits, why we've got expectations, why I'm trying to keep you safe, only until you can keep yourself safe, right? This is not me wanting to keep you safe forever. I want you off my hands. I just want to keep you safe until I don't need to keep you safe anymore. So be involved in your child's life, your teen's life, but not micromanage. What they can manage themselves, let them manage themselves. Remember that authority as a parent comes from wisdom and care, not from power and control. Develop those life skills. You know, ask more questions. Let's say, for example, you've got a child who wants to go on technology and you think they're too young for it. So simply ask the questions and say, well, what do you know about technology? What do you know about the good things about technology, and what do you know about the harms of technology? So obviously age appropriate, and teaching them how to research, so that it's not from you, it's government guidelines. It's, you know, that talk on YouTube that says, hey, technology is addictive. It's authority sources that are not you. Have you noticed that they don't listen to you? Try and find other authorities that can help. Get them to do the research and then help them problem solve. So with the fortnight, the way we came to a conclusion was we had certain games that he was allowed to play, so we talked about what he was, and that we would revisit the fortnight conversation when he was older, at what age we could look at that. And I said, and basically probably when you're old enough for it, there'll be something new anyway, so let's, you know, see what happens then. But don't use today's context when you're talking with them. There's no point in me saying, oh, I had to whittle sticks when I was a kid to play. They don't even know what that means. So make sure you're keeping it relevant and not outdated, right? So we've got a little bit of time for questions now, even though I've been running through the questions as we're going. Someone's just given me, we'll start with a toddler one, and then we'll go through and do a teenager one. Okay, so the first one is, I have a very clingy Velcro baby 2-year-old. I'm not an overly affectionate person, so I find it very hard to deal with. Is it normal for a 2-year-old to be so attached, not to want to play with other kids or even dad or grandma when mummy's around? Any tips on dealing with this clinginess? Now, this is going to blow your mind. It is so counterintuitive. What we know about attachment parenting is that your child's clinginess right now, and if you can respond to that, if you can take a deep breath and go, okay, this is a temporary thing. I promise you, your 15-year-old is not going to be hanging around your leg like your toddler is. I promise. I've never seen that before. So if you pander to that, and if you say, I'm here, I'm always here for you, I'm never going to be gone, and guess what? There's Daddy. Daddy's here for you too. And guess what? There's Grandma here for you too. And guess what? Here's Beanie Boo, the toy that child absolutely loves. Because clinginess is a developmental stage. And the stronger your bond with your child, the more you cuddle your child, make them feel safe, have that, connectedness, the more they feel safe to go in the world and will run away from you. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but I'm going to bring it back to an example where you'll understand it from your own life. Think about if you've got a partner. Let's say you've got a partner in life or a best friend in life. If you know that you can 100% rely on them to be there for you whenever you need them, if you know your partner would never do anything to harm you, if you know that your best friend will always be there, doesn't it make sense that you can go away, that they can go away, and that you know they're going to be there? Doesn't it make sense that that rock is there and that there's no need to worry? And that's how it is with kids too. Once you start to develop that really strong bond, reassuring, saying, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, and guess what? You've got all these other resources as well, and your teachers, and your daycare, and all of these toys to cuddle, and your bed, and all of these things that can make you feel safe and happy. Let's try that. Let's cuddle this toy. How does that feel? Oh, amazing. amazing. Cuddle mummy now. How does that feel? Amazing. Go play over there with daddy and give daddy a cuddle. Amazing. So you can see that little by little you can give them that confidence. All right, let's go. We've got a 12-year-old who's got selective hearing. I think that selective hearing comes into play at school. Do you have any suggestions? Yes. One of the things that I don't think we do very well as parents is to actually set positive goals. So selective hearing is a negative way of saying my child's not listening, right? That we need to learn more listening skills. So that's the opportunity to sit down and say, stop, empathise, educate. So you might sit down with your child and go, you know what, I've noticed that there's some things that you're just not listening when we talk. And I get it, because probably you're not listening when I say empty the dishwasher. You're probably not listening when I say get dressed for school. You're probably not listening when I say get off technology. But I want you to just turn the situation around and just imagine if you came to me and said, Mum, Dad, could you make breakfast for me? And I selectively didn't listen to you. Mum, Dad, I need $2 for the excursion. And I selectively didn't listen to that. You know, so it's that conversation and saying, look, I get it. Sometimes we don't want to do things, but why not just at least have a conversation around that rather than just not listening to me? Look, we are coming to the end of our time. I wish I could spend another hour with you. Thank you so much for everyone for being here. I want to quickly run through and let you know that we do have programs that can support you. We do have a 12-month webinar program. Someone said, I wish I could have you every day. Well, I can't say we've got it every day, but we do have a 12-month webinar program where every month there is a different topic. So if your child is being bullied or you want to bully-proof your child, if you need to manage technology with a toddler or a teenager, if you want to know how much sleep do kids actually need and how much water should they drink and how much exercise do they need, if you want to help your children develop their emotions so that they know how to regulate these, if you want to navigate that terrible or challenging thing of co-parenting when someone's not on the same page as you. So we do have lots of support that we can give you, lots of positive approaches to help your family thrive, whether it be online or whether it be in face-to-face seminars. So we have seminars that we can run in your organisation where you get to work on your parenting challenge, your specific parenting challenges. So you come in and you say, I want to work on eating, I want to work on technology, I want to work on better communication with my child, and then we workshop it with the win-win parenting approach. And then this is what parents look like after they've done win-win parenting. They feel more confident to manage their daily parenting challenges and they're happier. So if you'd like to know about these programs, if you'd like to know how to access these programs at your workplace, please contact Benestar for more information. There's win-win parenting at benestar.com, or there are these phone numbers. I've really loved, you know, meeting with you. Thank you for all your questions. Sorry I couldn't answer everybody's, but we did have quite a few people on this call. We've had over 500 people here, so I've done the best that I can to answer it. Thank you for all your thank yous, and I would love it if you would leave some feedback. It would be fantastic, because then I can pass it on to your employers. So if you can leave some feedback about what you loved most about the session, what I might be able to improve, but I hope you're taking away lots and lots of things that you can do to make your home life just a little happier and a little more win-win. Thanks for the comments. Needs to be longer. I get it. I could stay here all day with you, I promise. Thank you, everyone. I really, really appreciate all these amazing feedback. I'm going to stay on the line just a little bit longer to allow you to put your comments down. And I really hope we get the opportunity to work with you again in the future.